Harris Playground.
Hooray!
This is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to the Deron Harris program. Like my man up front just told you, my name is Deron Harris. Miss Jackson if you're nasty. What's up, folks? Welcome. Hopefully you had a good week this week. My week was crazy business, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, I want to go over today's topic. What do the owners of the Buffalo Bills, the Dallas Cowboys, the Washington Commanders, the Houston Texans, the former owner of the LA Clippers, and the current owner of the Phoenix Suns and Mercury. You guessed it, they've all been pegged or called out for making racially insensitive remarks. They are owners of their respective franchises, which begs the question, should players of color, and that's any player, not just black players, any player of color, should these players play for racist team owners? Should these people play for them? I'll be talking about that today. But first, man, I'm going to go over quick fast what happened in my past week. My wife had major surgery, like major ass surgery. And needless to say, I've been a fucking wreck the whole week, on top of suffering from the weekly depression and anxiety that I do suffer from. It was coupled with a bunch of stress, but we came out on the other side prosperous. It was great. She did a really, really noble thing. We did some preventative surgery. She had a double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery because she tested positive and for high risk for the BRCA breast cancer exam. So she jumped out right in front of it like a true champion. And she went ahead and she had this procedure done in order to prolong her life. And she did that for all the people in her life that she loves, and her children, me, everybody that loves her, including herself. She did it first and foremost so that she could prolong her life. And she's the bravest person that I've ever met in my life. That takes a lot of guts to do. And I love you with all my heart, babe. And now it's just about recovering. We got a long, long life to live, and I can't wait to start living it. So shout out to my baby. I don't know, maybe I'll have her on next week and we can talk about it, see what's going on. Just from her perspective, because it was an ordeal for me. It was a very, very huge ordeal for me. I was stressed out. I cried a whole lot because there was a lot of uncertainty, but I'm glad that everything is over. And like I said, we have to look forward to recuperation now, just recovery. So I want to shout out to that and say I'm super glad, and it's going to be many more years. So, all right. Today's question is, if you think about it, should players of color, do you think that players of color should play for team owners that are racist or have made racial remarks or have done things or said things that are racially insensitive? What do you think? Here's what I think. I think as a player, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to your fans. You got a responsibility to your organization, your teammates. You have that responsibility. But before any of that, this is what I feel. Before any of that, you have a responsibility to the dignity to your people. And for me, I don't think that I could play for someone that I know has issues with race. I just don't think I could. Because, not anybody openly. At least, if it was hidden and I didn't know, I don't know, and you could just go about your business. But for me to know, like the owner, Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, he was in the photograph at the high school in Little Rock in 1957 when the first black students went to the Little Rock High School. He was photographed shouting obscenities. And then he went on to become the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. That was back in 1957. But how much do you think the sentiment has changed? Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Washington Commanders, he made insensitive remarks about the name or wanting to change the name of the team because the Native Americans felt it to be offensive. And quite frankly, in a nutshell, he didn't really give a fuck. And it's just a lot. The Houston Texans owners said, we can't allow the inmates to run the prison now, can we? And that's what I'm talking about. Should we, or anyone of color, put money in these people's pockets? I don't think so. I think, quite honestly, that there should be some boycotts. I think that there should be some boycotts. Because in recent years, like I said, there have been several sports owners that have come under scrutiny for comments and actions that have really been perceived and even as straight up racist. Like I said, one of the most high profile case is the Los Angeles Clippers owner. He was out there with the N-bomb hard, sitting there with his girlfriend on some publicly. He's just crazy with it. Eventually that led to him not being able to own the team or be owner of an NBA franchise. They didn't stand for that, which shout out to the NBA for that. But that's a lot. That happens. That's happening. People are just saying what they want to because they have money and because they have those sentiments. And I don't think that we should take part in building these fortunes for these people, because I'll tell you what, and I'm just going to call it like it is. The NFL and the NBA, they're majorly black. That's just the way it is. I'm just calling it how I see it. It's just the way it is. I'm not saying that there's more of us than y'all just because I'm trying to be confident. I'm just saying it's majority black. Both of those sports franchises are majority black. And the owners are majority white. Let's face it. Just the facts. It's just the facts. If those owners cannot respect these players that are basically earning their living, then I think the black players should request a trade, maybe try and go play someplace else. Really. Maybe it should be a protest. Maybe it should be league-wide. Maybe it should be all leagues-wide and say we don't stand for that in any of this. All players take a stand. White players, black players, Latin players, any players, we all take a stand against it. Any of this, we just take a stand against it. We decide that we are tired of this narrative, and we're not going to put any more money into your pocket. We're going to strike. We're not going to play. We're not going to play, or we're going to request a trade. How much money do you think they would lose? How much money do you think they would lose if the Dallas Cowboys just decided we're going to boycott this season? We're just not going to play. And, of course, you're going to go get some scabs to play. But what if those scabs didn't play either? What if the whole NFL or the majority or all of the black players, all of the Latin players, all of the players of color decided that we're going to boycott this season? How much money do you think that we would lose here? It would be catastrophic. It would be doom. It would be the end of the world. For some people, it would be the end of the fucking world if there was no football. And people watch football. They watch these games, and they watch these games, and they watch these games, and they realize, and one thing I do realize, and a lot of people have realized this, that, and Snoop has even commented about this, that it's just a slave owner's mentality. These white guys own this team with these group of black guys on, which they trade around and they make them do this and that. And I've heard the whole thing. And to a degree, yeah, that can be argued. But these men get paid. They get paid handsomely. And that's a lot of the reason why they may never, or they say, you know what, you could be as racist as you want to be, just keep the checks coming. And I can respect that. To a degree, though. Only to a degree. Only to a small degree. Because you're basically selling out. You're selling out your folks, your people, for some cash when you could go get that cash someplace else. When you could get that cash by doing the right thing. By doing the right thing. And again, what if we did this? I mean, what if it was just this? If that's how you guys feel, if that's your sentiment about the players of color in the league or the black players in the league, why don't we just have our own league? Why don't we just have our own league and we just come up with the BFL, the Black Football League, the Black Dude Football League, and that's what we got. We got black coaches, black owners. I mean, I know there's enough wealthy black men out there that could probably pull some funds together and say, hey, listen, we're going to buy a sports franchise. Let's do it. Why not? Why not? And I'm not talking just about a little piece or a percentage of them. I'm talking about the team, the whole team. I own the team, nothing but the team. I own this team, and I don't care. I get to go to all the board meetings, and y'all can talk about me all you want to. I own the team. So we're going to do this with this team. This is what we're going to do. But I don't think that's the answer. I don't think the BFL or the POC Football League is the answer. I don't, because I believe that it should be everybody. I say this every week. I am not anti-white. I'm just extremely pro-black. But I do want this to work. But it just seems every time I turn around, somebody's telling me, oh, you bring race too much into it. Because people are shouting racial obscenities about us. It just keeps happening. And so as long as it happens, I'm going to keep talking about it. Because I'm just going to call it out. And I'm not sorry about it. And you wouldn't believe the hate and the doom and gloom that I get in my inbox based on just a lot of the questions that I ask. My podcast can be extremely inflammatory, but these are legitimate questions that I have for me because they pertain to me. Even if you're white and you can't identify with it, I'm not sorry for that either. But you're just gonna have to learn to understand that I go through different things than you do in this country, and that's one of them. I gotta be worried. I'm not necessarily worried. I'm called monkey. Nobody ever calls you monkey. That's the problem that we have. Nobody ever says, if you don't like it, why don't you go back to Europe? Nobody ever says that to you. And especially, we got brought here. We didn't come here on our own. So a lot of these remarks are extremely insensitive, and they're really uneducated to a degree. And I think that any owner that has this sentiment towards its players And it's obvious he is just using these people to get rich. Then the people that he's using, you owe it to yourselves and the people around you to say, you know what, I'm getting off this train. You're no longer going to use my body when I know how you feel about me. You just look at me as a piece of meat, some muscle to make you money. Of course, I make good money, but I could go over here to this franchise over here and not feel that same sentiment. And I think that any player, not just black players, all players, black, white, like I said a minute ago, I think they should boycott. I think there should be boycotts. There should be mass boycotts until we can get to the bottom of all of this in the country. I really do. I think that we need to sit down and start having dialogues on a lot of different levels. Sports is definitely one of those areas. You know, not too long ago, a few years back, there was a noose hanging in the garage of a black NASCAR driver. Come on, man, for real? But if I talk about it, oh, man, you need to let that go. But why? Why do I got to let it go? How come I can't say, hey, man, how come I can't tell you that's wrong? How come I can't say that's wrong to say? That's wrong to do? How come I can't call that out? How come I just have to slough around and go, okay, whatever? And more importantly, how come you can't accept that it's happening? How come you can't accept that it happens? Nobody says you need to be embarrassed. It wasn't you, right? Then you have no need to be embarrassed about what somebody else said or what somebody else did. But there's a lot of things that are happening around just happening because of race. Because of race. And I just wish and I hope that one day we can take it out. We can take it out of every equation. But as long as somebody's going to sit up there and say insensitive shit, like as long as, if the black players don't like it, they can go back to Africa, then you can rest assured that I'm going to get up here and I'm going to fucking speak about it. So if you're tired of listening to it, if you're tired of hearing it, don't listen. And I thank you for your listening, but if you don't want to hear this about these subjects, I'll tell you right now, right off the bat, don't listen. But if you feel like I feel, and you want to try to do something, and you want to voice, and you want to vocalize the wrong that this is, then keep listening, because this is what I'm about. Everybody, they shit on Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee against police brutality, and that's how that back the blue shit started. And that's come on, man. That is a direct counterattack against, black men that are being killed by the police just for being black, getting their necks kneeled on. I don't want to bring up George Floyd, but I'm just bringing up George Floyd. I don't know what we got to do, folks. I don't know what we got to do. And I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep calling it out every time I hear about it. Every time I hear about it, I'm just going to call it out. I'm just going to say what I feel. So like I said, the dilemma for athletes is, should they continue to play for teams owned by individuals who who has a questionable track record with race? It's principles. People say if you continue to play for these people, you condone their behavior. I don't know. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? I know how I feel about it. But how do you feel about it? Would you? And this is for everybody. Put yourself in that shoe, in their shoes. Indian guy, Asian guy, white guy, black guy. Of course, we're already there, but put yourself in those shoes. White guy, if the owner of your team was on some racism against you and against your people, how would you feel? Would you continue to play? Would you want to continue to play? Would you sweep it under the rug? What would you do? Well, I'm going to tell you what the majority of them are doing. The majority of them are sweeping it under the rug because they're still playing. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick for doing what I believe is the right thing, using his platform to express something, to express injustice and to try and do what he can to correct it. It's shitty that he was a good quarterback. He was a great quarterback that he never got to play because of his beliefs. Because of his beliefs. Because he was tired of the way that people were being treated. And America stood up and said, "You better play football, boy." Oh, yeah? What if none of us played football? What if all of us decided to take a knee this Sunday? What if all of us decided to sit out the Super Bowl? Would you still love it? Would you still love football? Would you still love the sports? Would you still love it? I'm going to take a break. When I come back, we'll continue with the subject. Should sports players of color continue to play for sports teams that have owners with a questionable race-related track record? You are listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Wow, that was a mouthful. I'll be right back.
Eat, drink, and celebrate with gold. Apply for the American Express Gold Card, and if approved, you can earn 4 times membership rewards points at restaurants worldwide. Fire up the grill and earn 4 times points at U.S. supermarkets. Cap and terms apply. Plus, with the $120 dining credit, you can earn up to $10 per month in statement credits with participating partners. Enrollment required. Learn all about what the American Express Gold Card can do for you at americanexpress.com/us/explore-gold. Terms apply.
Now, back to the Deron Harris Podcast.
Hey, folks, what's up? Welcome back. Today I'm talking about racist sports team owners and should the players continue to play for these motherfuckers here on the Deron Harris program. And my opinion is no, I don't think that they should. I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't. I would be, trade me the fuck out of here. Straight like that. You could make your money some other way. You're not going to make it on my back, though. That's how I feel about it. But other people feel differently. And people all have their own motivations for doing what they do. These people play. They know what these guys are talking about, but they continue to play, and they play because they like their lifestyle. And who could blame them? Driving around in Ferraris, living in big houses, be able to take care of your kids and financially stable. What's, a little racial slur, a little racial, what's the big deal? It doesn't really affect me. What's the big deal? Am I making a big deal out about it? Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm making too much of a big deal about it. But I'm sorry, folks. Anytime that I hear about things like this, it just seems like exploitation to me. And it just really seems like you turn a blind eye to being exploited. And it just feels like prostitution to me. You just hoeing yourself out for the paycheck, even though this motherfucker just hoeing you out, calling you whatever you want to fucking call you, as long as you get to make the money. All right. Okay. That's cool. I don't know. I've quit jobs for shit like that. I've quit jobs for shit like that. So, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for these guys. So, and I don't want to condemn them for doing what they do because, like I said, I don't know their lifestyle. I don't know what they go through in their lives. So I don't want to condemn these men. I just know what I would do if I were in that situation. Maybe I might have to lean on what I went to college for, which is not necessarily a bad idea. Maybe I won't make the money that I'll make in the NFL, but at least I'll be happy. Maybe not. Who knows? I think it's time that all of the players sit down with the league and the owners of the league and discuss race. I absolutely, positively believe that. I think everyone needs to sit down and start having these hard conversations. They're hard. They are hard. But when you get on the other side of it, you feel better. You feel better, and not only do you feel better, you have more understanding. Some people are never going to understand. Some people are going to continue to be their same bigoted selves no matter what. But if just a few of us could just sit down and say, hey, listen, let's talk about it, man. What's your problem? What is your issue? How can we get to the bottom of it? Some motherfuckers are going to say the issue is you motherfuckers breathing. Then right off the bat, you know that there's nothing that you can do. But a lot of times, a lot of this shit is misunderstandings, people being peer pressured into racism. I've seen that. Sometimes it's just not these people's character. Sometimes it's just not. It's just not. So let's get together, folks. Let's get together. Let's start having these conversations. Let's start talking about this in not only sports, but in all facets of whatever it is, Hollywood, the medical field. I don't care. Let's sit down with all of us and let's start having these conversations, because just like these sports owners have these racial comments, a lot of these business owners do too. A lot of business owners do too. Let's have these conversations. Let's stop putting money in these people's pockets. Let's hold them accountable. Let's call them out. Let's tell them and let's show them that we don't have any time for this shit anymore. We are trying to move past those days of the North and the South, the rebels and the Yankees, the Confederates and the Union. We're trying to get the fuck away from that stuff. All right? And there's a growing sentiment in as you can tell, especially on the political horizon, that is trying to bring that shit right on back. But I'll tell you, if you are a sports star and you have a voice and you got some fans, I'll tell you, this is a good one to get behind. You are going to treat us with respect, or we will not play for you. And that should be the message. That should be the message that you send to every single one of these sports owners who have this sentiment. We will not play for you. We just won't do it. So that is how I feel about this situation. I think I'm going to cut it short right here. Got some chores to do. Got to get back to the wife. I'm in the studio right now, and she is at my mother's house across town. So I got to get back to the wife and help out with the recovery chores. It is my shift, so I am anticipating I'm ready to be there with bells on. I love my wife, and I definitely want her to get better. And like I said, I'm going to try to get her in here if I can. Because I want to talk to her about it, because she went through something that is so incredibly tough. It's like tough. Not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. And I want to talk to her about it. So join me next week, folks, when I'll be talking to my wife about major surgery, major cancer prevention surgery on the Deron Harris Podcast. So I want to thank my mother, my father, and my wife. I want to thank my wife for being the most incredible people in the world and believing in me. I want to thank my best friend and producer, Jesse Yandel, for putting me up to this, man. Thanks. I want to thank Gentry Thomas for giving me the opportunity and the platform to do it on. And I, last but not least, want to thank all of you for listening to my podcast, man. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank the people who listened and don't listen anymore, too. I want to thank all of you for listening and sticking with me through this. Hopefully I'm giving you better content. I want to get better. I want to have one of those podcasts, for that gives good content. I'm not begging for people to listen, but if you want to listen and you want to keep listening, that's cool too. So I'll talk to you guys next week. I'm Deron Harris. Peace.
You've been listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, and everything you need to know is at DeronHarris.com.